So we are live on Facebook now, so we can start.
Okay. Good. A very good evening to all of you who have joined us either on Zoom or on Facebook Live. As part of this double bill for this very important day, the 21st of June, 2021, which happens to be International Yoga Day as well as World Music Day, we thought we shall have two back-to-back lectures. Wouldn't be right to call them lectures, talks actually, giving insights into whatever we are trying to talk about. And the first one we just concluded a few minutes back, and now we are into the second one on the occasion of World Music Day, where we have as speaker Dr. Boishali Mukherjee, psychologist and music therapist, who will be talking to us on music for resilience during pandemic and music's therapeutic role. So before we invite Dr. Boishali Mukherjee to speak, some house rules, please. Whoever has joined, please put yourselves on mute so that we don't get unwanted sounds, external sounds while the talk is going on. And at the end of the talk, Dr. Mukherjee will certainly be willing to answer questions. So whoever has questions at the end may kindly post these questions in the chat box on Zoom. And if somebody is watching on Facebook, also you can also put it there on the comment box, and we shall forward these questions to Dr. Mukherjee for responding to them. So with these few words of house rules and welcoming you all once again, I would like to hand the microphone over to Dr. Jayanta Sengupta, who is the Secretary and Curator of Victoria Memorial Hall, to kindly welcome all of you and also introduce the speaker for this evening. Jayanta.
Thank you, Raju, and good evening, everybody who has joined in. And I hope you and all your dear ones are safe and well in these really uncertain times. And welcome to this evening's second talk, Music for Resilience During Pandemic, Music's Therapeutic Role by Dr. Boishali Mukherjee. And as we feel, the title of the talk, of course, resonates with all of us, because life is tough in any case, even in so-called normal times, and we need music to cope with even that normal life. And the sustenance that we derive from music has perhaps never been more important than now in these dreadful times. The intrinsic qualities of music can bring positive changes to behavioral, psychosocial, spiritual, and neurobiological processes of resilience, and also facilitate human adaptation in the face of enormous challenges that we face today. And this talk will focus on the science and application of music as therapy to strengthen and sustain a healthy rhythm in our day-to-day lives affected by the pandemic. And it's a privilege and an honor to have Dr. Boishali Mukherjee, renowned psychologist and music therapist, who is a senior faculty and research associate at the Chennai School of Music Therapy in Chennai, and also a former faculty at the Department of Psychology in West Bengal State University and at the Department of Performing Arts Therapy in Rabindra Bharati University. A member of the Education and Certification Commission of the World Federation of Music Therapy, Dr. Mukherjee has been a dedicated trainer and practitioner in the field of music therapy in India for several decades, and has been deeply involved in research in the new fields of psychology, music therapy, mental health, and in integrating Indian traditional practices into the modern healthcare system with a scientific perspective. This research, especially the field of musical interaction and communication with children with special needs, the field of musical interaction and communication with children has taken her across the globe, where she has taught, lectured, and conducted research. We look forward to her advice and insights tonight about how to look to music for resilience during this pandemic. So without further ado, I invite Dr. Mukherjee to speak on this subject. Madam, the Zoom platform is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jayanta Sengupta, for a nice introduction. And I welcome one and all present here today. A very good evening to all of you. I'm deeply honored and privileged to be invited on World Music Day, which is, of course, a very special day for me in my life as a music therapist. And also, my sincere gratitude to Mr. Raju Raman for giving this opportunity, and also to Dr. Jayanto Sengupta for considering me for this talk. So today I'm basically going to focus on how and in what way we can integrate music in our day-to-day life. We are all aware that how the present pandemic environment or the situation, it has drastically changed our life. It has gone beyond our imagination. None of us actually have imagined that this pandemic is going to last so long, because it's first time that we all are experiencing this pandemic. So let us together explore that how, in what way we can integrate music in our life. So I have divided my talk into few sections. Like I will of course start with an introduction to music, followed by how actually we mean by health, especially the mental health, and how mental health it is actually imposed upon our biopsychosocial context. So that's why we are all so much, we are all affected so much by the pandemic. It has not only affected our health, but altogether how it has changed our life. And then I will enter into the discipline of music therapy. It is an academic discipline. Then I would also like to show you some real video clips of music therapy sessions that have taken place in several places by our institution, by our organization. So let us start today's topic, that is the resilience through music, music's therapeutic role. Please give me 1 minute to upload and share my screen.
Dr. Mukherjee, is there any problem? Because
Yes, I think so.
because we can see your blank screen, but we can't see the presentation.
Okay.
Uh,
Let me stop share and to
yeah,
reshare.
stop share and keep that presentation in the background, whatever you want to show, and then when you start your screen share, it will come automatically. You keep that on cue on your screen in the background.
Is it my video also got freezed?
Oh, yeah, then I think you stop sharing for the time being and then start again. Dr. Mukherjee, if it helps, you could log out and log in again. Sometimes that helps.
Okay. Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
I'm trying. So is it visible now?
No, you see, we just see a blank screen.
Out করে আবার login করাটাই better.
হ্যাঁ, আরেকবার log in করাটাই better because and then you keep that PowerPoint presentation open in the background before you
Yes.
share the screen.
Yes, please.
Yeah, actually it was open.
Yeah. So Dr. Vaishali Mukherjee, have you logged in again?
Yes, I think she has logged out
Yeah,
and will be.
logging in again. Sorry about this, ladies and gentlemen. We also had a trial run in which everything worked beautifully. Sometimes that's what happens. And we have to be prepared for all kinds of situations, not only pandemic, but also these kind of situations. হ্যাঁ, কি হলো, হচ্ছে না? No, no, but why don't you log out and log in again, and তাহলে you try control alt delete and close the program.
Sorry, everybody who has joined in. This is a completely unexpected technical glitch that we didn't expect because our tech trial went just fine. Sometimes these things just happen.
Yeah, something has happened to her. I just talked to her on the phone,
Yes.
and something has happened to her laptop, which has gone totally blank all of a sudden. And her husband, who is a technical person, is just sorting it out at the moment.
Okay. So, yeah, um, we hope she is back in just a few minutes' time. So please bear with us till then. Welcome back, Dr. Mukherjee.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm very much sorry that it was not.
No problem. These things happen.
Yeah,
Please don't
actually,
worry.
yeah,
Great to have you back.
Yes, I had to change my system because there is some issues with the system only. So it's I've joined from a different system now.
Thank you. Thank you so much. No, please go ahead, please.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, we can see it clearly.
Clearly.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So happy World Music Day to all of you present here. Today I'm going to discuss a different perspective on music, that how music is therapeutic to us. What are the effects of music on our mind and body? So of course that we are going to explore. Of course, it is on Music Therapy Day, I mean World Music Day, the therapeutic aspects of music. So first of all, music, it's a kind of celebration of humanity, that it is everywhere. And of course that we know that, there is no known culture that is recorded in history that lacked music. So there is no report on it that a particular human race or culture who doesn't have their music. And interestingly, that the archaeological reports and data, it shows that there are, existence of the old physical artifacts found in excavation sites that are musical instruments made of bone, flutes, animal skin, etc., etc. So it indicates that it is there. With human evolution, of course, the nature of music changed, and we also maybe changed with the evolution in music. So how actually we use and we enjoy music in our day-to-day life, in our everyday life. So of course that listening to music is something our daily habit. We like to perform music, and also very noticingly, we know that we have a very clear preference for music. I will come to this later, that why I'm emphasizing on preference. We remember hundreds of melodies, we spend time and money on music. We communicate through music, we celebrate through music, cultural occasions, festivals, spiritual occasions. So music is a language of our celebration. And most importantly, we also rest in music. I mean, when we are agitated, we are tired, we want to relax ourselves, of course, very commonly that our option is music. And as well as we find shelter in music. So it's sometimes that when there is nothing to, no place to rest, we can rest in music. We can find shelter in music. And most interestingly, that each and every human being, it doesn't matter that you are musically trained or you are not, but each and every person has the ability to mark out, to find out the wrong note in a melody, as well as we can also find out if the rhythm goes wrong. Yeah, let us have a look. What does it actually mean or indicate by health? So health, we can say it's basically a state. It's a state where there is a complete equilibrium between our physical, mental, and social well-being. And of course, when our disease and infirmity is absent. So mental health, that as I would like to draw your attention to mental health. So this is also refers to the state of well-being, but how it differs from physical health. That in mental health, we basically mean that at the same time, with the absence of disease, the person has also the ability to understand the real and also to realize that what the person can and what the person cannot. So basically the capacities, as well as to cope with day-to-day challenges to adapt with the changes that is taking place in our surrounding. So mental health is not just mean that where there is no anxiety or no tension or no stress, but mental health is a state of well-being where we can completely ever and we are able to utilize our all potentialities. We realize our potentialities to function optimally in a day-to-day life. Mental health, it's not only, that we never isolate that it's just a psychological phenomena, or it belongs to only the domain of psychology, but it's rather an interaction between the biopsychosocial factors where actually we are. So let's have a look, what are these things, what are these factors? So first pillar, it basically refers to the biology. Of course, it's all the biological processes involved, like your physical health, metabolic factors, neurochemistry, your genetic vulnerability, drugs, immune responses, comorbidities. Most importantly, the diet, the kind of food you consume. Of course, it should be very nutritious. So everything actually it makes up our biological, the physical health. Then psychological factors. A lot actually depends on your biological health. So how, you are nurturing your psychological phenomena, like your perception, how you are regulating your emotions, your belief system, cognition, associations, where you associate yourself more. Both positive and negative events happen in our life. The association, that what are the permanent association we really form in ourselves, temperament, coping skills, social skills. So all are the indication of our psychological phenomena that has impact on our health. So, and equally the social environment. So where we are, of course, there the family, the first thing is family, our relationship, education, work, socioeconomic status, peer group, neighborhood. So everything has its significant role, even the culture. Of course, each and every place has its own, cultural uniqueness. So all together, that as a whole, in an integrated way, in a holistic manner, it influences our health as a whole and mental health in specific. Yeah. So this is, of course, it's not new. We are all updated and we are all aware of the present pandemic, COVID-19, that how it has changed our life drastically. Of course, there are effects on our mental health, effects on our physical health, economy, social, social environment has changed a lot. There is a lots of burden on healthcare system. So all together, it's a kind of disaster that we are going through. Of course, that has lots of, impact, not only on our health, but it has changed our lifestyle altogether. So in a recent review, I was just reading through on internet that American Psychological Association, so they have declared it's a kind of national mental health challenge, as they have called it, because their statistics and their data, it shows that 42% of increase in mental health problems and psychological disorders, especially anxiety and depression. So it's quite alarming, it's quite significant. So as they had to declare, it's a kind of national mental health challenge. So altogether, how we get affected by this. So what are the elements, what are the components that is basically affecting our life? So altogether, this situation, including this mental health issues, physical health, economic condition, social environment, all together, of course, it's leading to stress in our life that we are facing on a day-to-day basis. So just quickly, I know that none of our life is, we can say, completely stress-free. We are quite aware of what actually it's mean by stress. What are the stressors that are present in our life? So let us just have a quick look at what actually the stress means technically in psychology. So it's basically a type of psychological pain that refers to feeling of strain and pressure. So it is a condition or it is a situation, you can say, that when we perceive that our coping resources are not enough to deal with the stressors of our day-to-day life, what we are facing, what is coming from, external environment, but not always the source of stress is the external environment, like a social factor or economic factor or your something related to your family or social environment, but a lot actually we nurture the factors of stress within ourselves, the factors of stressors within ourselves, like the way we think, like the memories, the associations that we relate a lot. We attach ourselves, all the negative memories, negative association. At the same time, we can say the stress is a kind of perception that we feel that our external environment, it is imposing a demand on ourselves. So it is exceeding my capabilities. It is exceeding my ability to cope with stressor. So stress is something that very clearly we can say, of course, it's a psychological thing, but a lot depends on that how we are perceiving our stressors. So the research and the theories says that, of course, minimum, or we can say the optimal level of stress is very important at the same time for our well-being, because it's in many cases it motivates us. In many cases, it helps us to fight in a particular situation, to take the challenges of our life, to bounce back, to fight back. So this kind of stress we call as eustress, which is a factor for our motivation. And also there is one more component, one more element in it, that we need to maintain a balance between what we experience or what we call as eustress. So of course that we cannot stay in a state that where there is no stress, that is called as hypostress, because then it leads to the low level of arousal within ourselves. And if you have a very low arousal level, so it is not a very optimum condition for you to function effectively, to face the challenges. And at the same time, if the stress level, it crosses your abilities, so then it becomes the hyperstress. So sometimes that hyperstress is also not a very good thing for our lifestyle. So a well balance between hypo and hyperstress, it actually leads to, of course, eustress, where we can actually optimize the component of stress in a positive way, in a positive manner. So we fight it out. It becomes the source of our motivation, positive emotion, positive thinking, etc. But if we fail to maintain this balance, it turns to distress. So then when the stress turns to distress, so what are the bodily and the psychological responses that in common we observe? Of course, the all systemic function within your body, it will get affected. First, starting from that effects on autonomic nervous system that will lead to irregular breathing. Of course, it leads to, lot of impact on your digestive system. Immune activities will be very low, and of course now in present scenario, all of us know that immunity is how much it is important for our health, as well as muscle tension, decrease in sleep quality, and also the psychiatric disorder, which is not exclusively psychological, but of course it's a psychobiological process at the same time, all psychiatric disorders. And as a response at psychological level, what we experience, at the emotional distress, cognitive decline, increase in anxiety, depressive feeling, mood changes. So similarly, as all the systemic functions of your body is affected, so equally it is your psychological phenomena, psychological faculties will be equally affected. So what is very important thing is that we should recognize that I am in stress. So of course, there are many symptoms, many signals that our mind gives to us, our body gives to us, but our task is to recognize the stress. Then, of course, at initial stage, we can deal with it. We can, learn different strategies to cope with the stress. But if it is not corrected at the initial stage when you are going through stress, so of course it leads to chronic stress. So of course, always, the chronic stress is something which is really bad, for our health. It leads to lots of disease and disorders in our system. So just have a look at these symptoms like body, that when we talk about like migraine, pain, sleep disorder, chronic illness, also fatigue, weakness, skin conditions, digestive issues. So similarly, psychological symptoms like even have a feeling of continuous worrying, nightmare, indecision, negativity, very muddled, clouded thoughts, impaired judgment, forgetfulness, panic, distress. So emotional regulation will be affected as a result. So these are the results of the, how it affects the emotion, like experience of irritability, depression, hopelessness, loneliness, apprehension, anger, apathy. So similarly, all together, it will affect your behavior. So it's very common that loss of appetite, sleep, desire, dependency on drug, alcohol, as a result that happens. Violence, specifically the domestic violence, that it's a very significantly rising due to the lockdown. Everybody is at home. Self-harm, insomnia, hoarding, alienation. So all of these are the indication that the person is in stress. So let us have a look on coping. Of course, that we cannot tolerate our system, psychobiological system, it cannot tolerate this state. It starts its natural ways to cope with the situation. So what is coping basically? That comes out of stress. So coping is basically an internal process. So it is coping is something that we intentionally put that effort to mitigate the effect of stresses. So our body, our mind, it automatically, naturally, it puts its effort to reduce the effects of all those stresses. Of course, it's a good coping style is that if you can change your interpretation based on your perception. So of course, perception, how we define it, it's an interpretation of our sensory information. So how we are basically interpreting our environment, how we are attaching meaning to our environment. So if we change our interpretation towards our environment, so this is also a very effective way of coping with our stresses, as well as developing cognitive, emotional, behavioral strategies for adaptation. So when, the first two, ways, when these two fail, of course, it's the person should take external help by seeing a counselor or a psychologist or a psychiatrist, whatever, to develop, cognitive, emotional, and behavioral strategies to help in that particular situation. And actually these external helps, they help the person to adapt, to develop some strategies cognitively, emotionally, as well as behaviorally. So altogether, we can call it as coping. And coping skills are not something that we always have to learn. This is how we should cope, but it is our natural tendency to cope in front of stress. So what is then called as resilience? So resilience, it's basically the core strength and the capacity to recover from challenges and difficult life events. So it's, resilience basically means that when we really bounce back, we look back out of our life challenges, difficulties in our life. So, and these life events or these life challenges, it can be anything. In fact, sometimes it is beyond our imagination. That's what what we are going through. due to this pandemic, because many families are suffering from loss of job, loss of family members. So of course, it's very unpredictable. So it's the source can be anything like starting from a terrorist attack to mass shooting to natural disaster. So it can be anything. But how the resilience, what a resilient person does, of course, first of all, is to accept the situation and working through emotional pain and suffering. So 3 qualities are very important to be resilient: flexibility, adaptability, and perseverance. So we should maintain, this. There are different forms of resilience, like psychological resilience, emotional resilience, physical, and community resilience. So let me just say one line under each. So psychological resilience, it basically indicates that how cognitively you are able to cope with the situation, with the environment. Emotional resilience, to a large extent, it refers to the emotional regulation. That you can understand others' emotion, at the same time, you also realize what is your emotion. And empathy is a term also comes to this area, this domain, which is very important in interpersonal relationship as well. Then physical resilience. So it's not the psychology, the resilience takes place at psychological level, but it also has to take place at physical level. So we need to be strong enough to face the challenge. Our body should be prepared enough to accept, whatever the situation that it will impose on us. And community resilience is that it's something, community, it's a part of community behavior that as a group, when the people are trying to cope with some disaster, some challenge, community resilience, actually, we can also refer to the present situation, like as a nation, we are fighting with COVID, right? So that we are all, trying to follow the rules and regulations that's, given by the government, like we are following all the rules of lockdown, wearing mask, lots of things. So yes, it is a kind of community resilience that we are trying to fight it back. And along with that, also, we can try few mindset intervention. Of course, that you can try each and every, technique for yourself. For example, first to accept that whatever is happening around you, that first, maybe it's a loss, maybe it can be anything, a sudden accident, whatever it is, that first thing is very important, that we should accept it. Secondly, that we can connect meaning with our experiences. So you can say, yes, this is to some extent the spiritual perspective that I'm bringing in to talk about resilience. So if we always try to find meaning of all the things, all the events happening around us, of course, it helps us to be resilient. Value exercises that I think on a daily basis, and it's something very important to teach children as well. The importance of relationship, the importance of gratitude, showing compassion who are in need, and also showing compassion to family members, to grandparents, to the youngers. So it's a kind of training that we can really help children to develop with these value exercises: forgiveness, honesty, hard work, love for near and dear ones, for friends and families. So all of this help, exercising altruism, and also, interestingly, that turning anxiety into excitement. So when we basically face anxiety, so of course that when the situation is very challenging, when something unpredictable happens, when we apprehend something, if that happens to me, how I'm going to deal. So all kinds of fear is associated with anxiety, because we anticipate lots of negativities to happen in our life. So that's how actually the anxiety grows. So if we just turn it to excitement, so take each and every experience as your task. So whenever you will think of this future uncertainty as how to deal with it, for example, so make it a task. So of course you can turn into an excitement. Talk about it with your family members, talk about it with your friends. There is no harm if you discuss your problems with someone. So let's see then who is resilient. Of course, that a person who has strong value system, strong social support network, confidence, hope, and optimism. So all together are the indications that the person is trying to be resilient, or the person is already a resilient person. And how can we then improve resilience in our day-to-day life? Of course, it depends on how you think about stress and how you cope with it. Yeah, so these are the health-related management that very important for our day-to-day life. It's very simple, like regular exercise, doing exercise, social support, always, keep in touch with your family, friends, community, time management, guided imagery and visualization. Sometimes this visualization training also helps. Whenever you are in tension, depression, anxiety, or any kind of negative mental state, try to associate, try to remember some or bring some positive image, positive association to your mind. Try to visualize that. Maybe that you have heard of a loss of one of your friends, who was who was very close to you. So of course, it will lead to some sort of sadness, depression, etc. But at the same time, if you just try to, visualize the images that you have with him or her in previous days, which are very positive. So try to practice such visualizations, listening to music. I'm coming to this. Progressive muscle relaxation. This is a training-based assertiveness training. That is also, it's a training-based self-writing. Very important. That at our times, I can remember that we used to have a habit of writing diaries. But nowadays, I think that kids are lacking this habit because of all these modern technologies they're exposed to very early in their life. But this is an excellent, activity to release stress, release anxiety, and at the same time managing workplace effectively. So which also depends on time management. This is the modern concept of that how basically these allied healthcare therapies look at, on mind-body problems like stress, anxiety, different psychophysical issues, problems, different psychiatric disorders. The domain typically calls as mind-body medicine, or it's also called as lifestyle sciences. I know that before this speech, there was a talk by your eminent yoga practitioner who talked about, he must have talked about this lifestyle science, and yoga is based on that. So similarly, music therapy is an allied healthcare discipline that practices a lot of this mind-body medicine. So what it is basically, so they believe that there is a continuous interaction between mind and body. So it is like when maybe an evaluation is going on with biological processes. So parallelly, the mind of the individual, the psychological status of the individual will be parallelly investigated. So in the medical discipline, it will be taken as physio-psychological, effects. And in psychology, it will be taken as psychophysiological. So basically, both are interrelated with each other. And basically, within these domain of healthcare practices, so the main effort is given on to understand that the person holistically. It is not the person should be understood by the medical practitioner, just the collection of the symptoms of the disease the person has, or just the collection of the symptoms of the all the problems that the person has come and poured on the doctors. But the practitioner will put lots of effort to understand the relationship mind and body, the person's social background, economic background, educational background. So everything will be considered holistically for assessment, planning the treatment, planning intervention, as well as for the evaluation of the person. So this is also called as holistic healthcare, where I mean sometimes the homeopathy and Ayurveda are also integrated within it. Allied healthcare professions like music therapy, dance movement therapy, creative art therapies, all are integrated into the domain. It's a kind of spectrum that it provides to look at the person, to look at the patient as an individual. It's not as a patient, it's not as a diagnosis. So it's a holistic approach that it provides. Of course, that in that system, I mean, the mind, how it is defined, it's of course, I mean, it's not only for a holistic concept, but basically that how we define mind. It's a range of functions as it is carried out by the brain. And of course, the collection of activities that is performed by our brain get expressed through our consciousness, cognition, emotion, and behavior. That is what we call mind. And from mind, of course, how we draw, I mean, or we define behavior. So now the point is that how then brain, music, I mean, it, how music has impact on our health, how music affects our health. Of course, it is through brain, because the music is received as an external stimulus through our auditory system, and it immediately gets processed in our brain. And through that activity, I mean that all our systemic functions get impacted. So just let's have a look, I mean, how it works. So brain is basically the organ that receives, perceive, and process music. So music is not, I mean, if we just microanalyze the components of music, so lots of things happen, I mean, when we listen to music. So yes, I will come to that, but now just take that brain, it's receiving music, it's processing music, and it's helping us to interpret the music. So any effect that music has on systemic health or any other organ or system, that of course it is mediated through brain. There are established physiological pathways, for example, HPA pathway. So it basically connects brain with the other systems of the body, and how it brain does it, of course, that each and every systemic functions, it is related to brain-body information transfer system. So that is how the brain, through its channels, it transfers information to different systems. So obviously, it will have its effect on health because through its positive changes. So how music is positive to our health, how music is positive to our brain. By nature, brain is a dynamic. We know the plastic quality of brain, right? So music is also a phenomena that help this dynamicity and also the plasticity to go on. Music actually brings lots of chemical changes to our brain. So here you see that through neurochemical effects, music induced brain plasticity. Music can benefit the brain both in health and neuropsychiatric conditions. Because brain is the only, the music is the only way through which we can activate the brain as a whole. I will show a diagram on this. Music is known to have a wide range of physical effects. I mean, through its effect on cardiac rhythm, that of course it changes our blood pressure, respiration, muscle tension, heart rate, etc. And musical experiences combined with imagery. So that just now I said the visual imagery, it also strengthen, it helps to strengthen our immune system. So obviously, as we said that the brain, it has effect on the brain as a whole. So let us see, I mean, specifically that how music for stress. So it's these, these are all, evidence-based, based on, randomized control trial researches. that shows that listening to music, it reduces the level of cortisol hormone in our body. Of course, cortisol, it's called as stress hormone. It gets reduced. There is a reduction in the salivary alpha amylase. So it's an enzyme that is the secretion of what it's high when somebody is in stress. There is an interesting study on children with autism and children with intellectual impairment that when they are in occupational therapy. Occupational therapy is a kind of therapy that involves basically, all sensory systems, the muscles, movements, all of these areas that children usually they refuse to do all those activities because lots of physical activities in occupational therapy. So when compared between occupational therapy and music therapy, the research shows that salivary alpha amylase, this SA enzyme, it has reduced in case of music therapy. It has effects on autonomic nervous system. Multiple areas of brain are activated. Even the areas that includes movement, planning, attention, memory. Very importantly, brain chemistry changes. There will be high release of dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter. It's always rewarding for our brain. It always gives a feel-good experience when the high level of dopamine is induced in the brain. So that's why sometimes, for treatment of depression, so dopamine is sometimes in the form of medication, it is referred. And also release of serotonin, endorphin, oxytocin, all these neurotransmitters, it will be high when the person is in music. It helps to uplift mood. And of course, overall, it gives a feel-good effect. There will be changes in cardiac rhythm. And also that one more research that music around 60 beats per minute, it causes brain to synchronize with the beat, causing alpha brain waves. So alpha brain waves, basically it occurs that when the person is in, relaxation, when the person is about to sleep. So that's the time. Yeah. So let us have a look on this slide. So here you see that music is a stimulus that it energizes all of these areas of brain, starting from motor cortex, sensory cortex, auditory cortex, visual cortex, cerebellum, prefrontal cortex. I don't know if you are able to read the letters. It's very small. So music comes as a, it's a kind of multisensory experience that it gives. So it's not only that our auditory system is activated, or it's not that only, the linguistic area of our brain that process the lyrics of the music is only activated. But of course that our movement with music, we cannot just still straight and listen to the music. So obviously we get involved with music as a whole. Our bodily responses, actually it facilitates our listening ability. It facilitates our listening skills. So motor cortex is highly involved. For example, cerebellum. So cerebellum is a center that responsible for all balancing things, right? So at the same time, it's also important that it helps to catch the emotional reactions in music. The emotional content of the music. Visual cortex, how it gets involved, because we know in space, especially in if we refer to Western music, it's highly, it's a score based. So when musician is performing, he has to follow all the scores. So whereas in Indian music, in classical music specifically, it's more of improvisation, more of your, how you are attaching yourself. So of course, the functions related to self and all those psychological areas are more developed. So anyhow, that music is something that activates the whole brain very interestingly. And this slide is showing that, I don't know if any musicians are present in this group. So it's a musician's capacity, a musician's capabilities. Actually, it reflects to all of these skills like creativity, spontaneity, focus, good focus, confidence, memory, sight reading skill, speed, ability to cope with the tempo of the music, hearing skill, rhythm, sense of rhythm, perceptual skill, analytic skill, physical coordination. So all of these qualities are the skills of a musician. And if you just think and try to relate these skills, these abilities to our day-to-day life, you just tell me that, of course, I'm sure that you are also able to relate and find the parallel of how much creativity we also need to, adapt with the challenges of our day-to-day life. How much spontaneity is important, how much we use our memory skills, focus, confidence. So everything it's needed. And also it enhances a person's ability to be resilient, because for resilience also, I showed you 3 qualities which are very important to be resilient. The first one is flexibility. The second one is adaptability. And the third skill is perseverance. So all of this, the basic qualities of human mind, as well as the biological processes as it is involved, are quite exhausted by when somebody is involved in music. It doesn't matter you are just passively listening music or you are actively getting engaged in music. Both help. Of course, in case of active engagement, of course, maybe that you need more physical coordination than you are just listening. But both are equally important in day-to-day life. Now coming to music therapy. So it's an academic discipline. And for somebody to become a music therapist, one needs to go through some formal accredited training program where internship is mandatory. The person has to, pass the internship phase under supervision. Usually the internship takes place in a hospital setup, in a clinical setup, in a rehab setup. And usually the goal of music therapy is not to teach music. So goals of music therapy are always non-musical. And how the music therapy takes place, of course, that it is within a therapeutic relationship by a trained professional who has completed, so who has completed a training program. And music therapy, it's of course, it's an academic discipline, and also it's an evidence-based practice as part of allied health profession. Just let me quickly say there are still, there are misconceptions about music therapy, which is very important that we should understand. That listening to music is not therapy, playing music is also not therapy, performing music is not therapy. If somebody is teaching music to her student or maybe her kid, that is also not a therapy. Meditation through music is not something that refers to therapy. And performing group music is also not. And at the same time, the music-based religious and ritualistic programs also it does not call as therapy. So music therapy is basically intertwined in the therapeutic relationship. And that therapeutic relationship, it takes place at 2 levels. The first level is, the musical relation between the client and the therapist. So how, musically, through the medium of sound, a therapist and client is communicating with each other, interacting with each other. And of course, that communication is a reciprocal communication. So in music therapy, music is presented as an experience. So it is not that the target or the objective of the therapist would be to teach a musical skill. So here music is given as an experience. So as it happens in psychotherapy, that we talk with the clients, right? We give, we tell lots of stories, maybe to change a mental state, to change a cognitive function. So similarly in music therapy, so story, of course, it's music. Psychotherapy is not only about stories, telling stories. So please don't, misunderstand me. So it's just an, in psychotherapy, story is one component. So in similarly in music therapy, creating musical stories to give the targeted experience is also that what happens. So each and every therapeutic technique coupled with music therapist's musical qualities is given to the therapy. So that's the musical communication. And at the second level is the interpersonal relationship. So that is what actually a therapy always it aims for. So therapy always it indicates an interaction leading to an engagement. So the same thing happens in case of music therapy, where the therapeutic goals are achieved, which are non-musical goals. So music therapy, and also at the same time, it cannot cure any disease, but rather we would say that it's a supportive to the patient. It helps to improve, restore, and also to sustain health. Music therapists, they never prescribe any form of music that you listen to this music, your sleep will improve, or you listen to this music, your depression will reduce. No, music therapy doesn't prescribe any music like medication. Do not use pre-recorded music through headphones or any other means. So it's not usually the recorded music is used in therapy session. So it's all, live music. Again, one important information, it's not that one music, it works for all. So the experience of music in our life is very much individualized. It depends on our socio-cultural context. It depends on our personal experiences. It depends on our own musical training, how much I relate myself to music. So all of these things actually, it basically, how the process of music listening, it facilitates or enhances health. So it's not that the music that I prefer, my preference will be same with you. And in therapy, always it starts with the preference of the client. Music therapists, they always work in an interdisciplinary team where medical doctor will be present, psychologists will be present, even other therapists can also be presented in the team. So they work in an integrated manner, integrated way. Yeah. So this is a demonstration of how music in salutogenic practice for health. So just now I talked about mind-body medicine and lifestyle sciences. So in salutogenic practice for health, it's not the pathogenesis. So it's not only the disease to be prioritized in the context. It is not only the symptoms to be prioritized in the context. So usually the healthcare system look at the person as a whole. So there they place music as an alternative way to support the medical team, for example. So there are many cases, many examples that for preoperative anxiety to deal with, where the patient cannot be given painkillers. So music therapists will complement, the medication. So they will be present there giving the music therapy, and so that it helps to reduce the pain in the absence of painkiller. So that's how the music is placed in salutogenic practice for health. It can be presented in the form of prevention. It's called as preventive form of, music used in preventive form. So it's improve resilience, coping with stress, etc. So that is what, basically we are discussing today, that music for health and wellness. We can also call it as music healing, and we can also refer it to music in self-care. How we can use music to, prevent ourselves from stress, from anxiety, from other negative stresses that affect our health. Second is restorative. Of course, it is training based. It's facilitating recovery and enhance functionality in a day-to-day life. So music therapy and music medicine, these are the two practices fall under restorative practices. For example, maybe that a patient came for example, like what to say, like post-operative, maybe that movements. Somebody has gone through some spine surgery or something, which has a lot of impact on movements, and the patients usually experience pain. So maybe after recovery, the person has gone home, but along with the physiotherapy, maybe the music therapist can work in association with the physiotherapist to enhance, to facilitate, the functions related to movement, posture, balance, all of these things. So that is kind of restorative use of music to facilitate recovery as well as to improve functionality. It can also happen in case of music medicine. Music medicine is a very specialized area where usually the pre-recorded music is only used when the patient is not in a condition to actively participate with therapists in music therapy session. So that's the situation. When the pre-recorded music is used, as I said, maybe pre-operative, during process, during operation, post-operative phase, as well as, for example, like there are lots of restrictions over movement, or maybe some surgery has taken place at the oral region, vocal region. So restorative can be the option. And palliative, we know that it's almost the end of life situation when there is no cure for the disease. So to sustain and also at the same time to maximize the functions, to enhance the effects of the ongoing treatments, the music can also be used in a palliative setup. And one more example for preventive, like for example, use of music during pregnancy. So it's, in our department in Pondicherry, Sri Balaji Vidyapith, that it's a kind of mandatory thing. That when the patients, the pregnant ladies come, that with the minimal issues, if they bring in like blood pressure or diabetes or any systemic health when it is affected, so immediately they are referred to music therapy. So music therapists help them to structure that how they can use music as a self-care, as a preventive measure. So these are the three basic ways how music is used for health. These are the areas of application. And these are just a few, examples like of the department. Here you see that, I'm sorry, I'm not able to show you the video because of these technical problems. But still I have pictures of the, music therapy sessions. So here you see that it's a during procedure that they are the music therapists who are, holding the patient's hand and also talking, singing, and at the same time, of course, counseling the patient. So here you can see that it's in a setup like pediatric area, and as well as I think it's a pregnancy, because they're taking the blood pressure and all of these things. At the same time, the therapist is trying to engage the child. So it's a kind of holistic approach. So here also you can see that in a operation theater, that he is the dean, that who are all together and trying to assist the process. That here you see the music therapist standing and they're presenting music. It's for the doctors, for the nurses. It's more of a community music therapy environment that you see that here. So this is the waiting area, waiting lounge that music therapists are because you know that the people who come with patients, maybe they're inpatients that it's admitted in ICU, or maybe some critical situation that the patients are going through. Actually, the anxiety or the tension is no less for the, assistant of the patient. So they are giving music. They're trying to engage them in music. This is again, this is the, pictures in palliative care, in cancer care unit, that, all of them are in a very last stage of their cancer. And the music therapist visit and they give music. You can see that they have playing the keyboard beside the bed, as well as, guitar. So all of these simple instruments, what you can carry, and of course, in a very structural and in a technical manner, the music to be presented for the patients. Yeah. So pain, no pain. When you are involved in music, of course, that your mind will be distracted to the creation, to the, innovative aspects of the music. So you'll be distracted from pain. So based on all these, of course, that music is a evidence-based now, that Cochrane review, it's a systematic review that actually has a lot of impact on the decision-making process of medical system, any medical system. So in Cochrane review, the effects of music therapy are reported, which is, called as evidence-based, on anxiety, depression, autism spectrum disorder, schizophrenia, insomnia, dementia, cancer, pain relief, acquired brain disorder, coronary heart disorder, mechanical ventilation. So all of these, conditions, the effects of music are now research-based, evidence-based. So now let us, have a loop on some simple technique that how then you can use, of course, that it's not that at the first step, at the first level, immediately we need to find out a music therapy to have music in our life. Music as a self-care, music healing, music for health and wellness, actually it works a lot. And that is the first step, that how we as a music therapist can help the society. Use music for prevention. Use music in your day-to-day life to prevent lots of, effects of, detrimental effects of stress, anxiety, depression, tension, etc. So these are few simple things. For example, first you can create a playlist for yourself, so that it will help you to analyze then what is the music that helps you to relax? What is the music that helps to uplift your mood? What are the music with what actually lots of associations? You can basically, have the experience of reminiscence. This is the music what can actually induce sleep in you. You can just like that, you create a playlist for yourself for each and every area and listen it consistently. It's not always, we should always stick to the old music that I always like to hear, that I always like to listen. Because at the same time, we have to think of brain plasticity. We should give our brain opportunity to explore with new things. That's how actually we will also be able to be flexible and adaptable with environment, and music can help you to develop that brain plasticity, to keep that brain plasticity on in yourself. So listen to new music of unknown artists. Just simply go to YouTube and pick one music without seeing the name of the artist, without seeing that what's the genre is. Just pick and listen. You try, and maybe later you can get back to me on this. Improve your musical skills and listening skill. Don't think that you are a trained musician or not, you had any musical training or not, you were ever exposed to music in your life before or not, because the theory of musicality, it says that each of us has the basic potentiality to respond to music, for what we don't need any training. So that musical quality we all possess. And interestingly, the research also has shown that for that musicality to have within ourselves, it's no disease, no condition, no disaster. I mean, nothing can touch that core system of musicality that all of us have. But the thing is, we need to nurture it. Nurturance is very important. So simply you can record yourself, sing something and record yourself and listen. You don't need to, share your recording to everyone in your group, right? Record something, you listen to yourself. You see that it will lot of, it helps in terms of self-regulation. You will build your self-esteem. It will be the source of your motivation in your life, as well as maybe that who, maybe the aged person who is not in a position now to sing or not even to make some movements with music, even they can improve their listening skills. Keep a music listening time in daily routine. That also helps. Be creative. Music is receptive to all kinds of creations. Very important. For example, that one unique example I can give you, find out a strange sound in your environment and record it. There are many sounds that, right, we listen in a day-to-day basis. Some sounds, of course, most of them are very common, known, familiar, but still among them, there will be some components of sound which is completely new to ourselves. So be receptive to that. You can record it. At the same time, you can, improvise your movements with music. It's very important exercise. Simply you play music when you are practicing yoga. Simply, you play music when you are involved in some creative activity, like, for example, cooking or some art and craft things, etc. And this is very important, and I think that it was there in our culture, that social musical team up. So it's basically that we need to get connected with each other. So, and this is also not only, we should not be restricted to music only, but it can be any form, like a group, a dancers group, maybe the group of the people who performs drama. Maybe it's a group for debate. So any kind of creative activities that, of course, that it helps to get connected socially, as well as that it protect us from all the stresses, all the disasters in our life. And of course, music therapy in the form of self-care can also be the meditation and music. It can be the chanting. It can be the music and visualization exercises, sing along. For children specifically, I would suggest that simply sing with children. Don't think that you are perfect or you are not, or maybe that you are. You will think that because of you, the musical aptitude is becoming low in your child because you can't sing. It's never like that. Just simply sing along, sing together. It has a lot of effects in terms of social bonding, in terms of strengthening relationship. Chanting, it's a kind of the Indian traditional practice that even if you don't have time to chant on a daily basis, just simply play a chant. It will, that repetitive pattern, that also strengthen our brain activities. And meditation and music is also good as a form of relaxation. So there are two, I have at present the two posters, like one for adult self-care through music and one for self-care music for children. So maybe you can connect to the authority if you want to have these posters. So at last, to conclude that music is the only thing sometimes that gets your mind off from everything else, because it has the capability, it has the capacity to go beyond words. when we don't like to express ourselves through words, so then, I mean, align with music. And also that the music can heal the wounds that medicines cannot touch. Yes, of course. Experience, especially in the unit of palliative care, of course, that it helped the person to, I mean, in the process of transition, right? And also to adopt a spiritual dimension in life at the most difficult time, most difficult phase of life. These are the popular journals in the field of music therapy, like Music Medicine, Journal of Music Therapy. So you can, if you want, you can just Google search. You will get lots of information on the effects of music and how you can really use music in your day-to-day life. So these are the international association, like American Music Therapy Association, AMTA, IA, World Federation of Music Therapy. So all are dedicated to the training, practice, and research in the field of music therapy. These are few references of books that, of course, very important and interesting books that you can just, I mean, pick one and read as a pleasure reading. The references. Yeah, thank you very much for your patient listening. And again, at the end, I want to say sorry once again because of the technical problems that I had to face. So here I'd like to end my talk for today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. Raju, can you read out? Raju, you are on mute.
Okay, now I could, because the host had to allow it. See, otherwise I could unmute myself. Yeah, thank you for this very fascinating talk. We have been talking about this for quite some time now, and all of it makes sense, and some of it links up with the previous talk that we had also about the conjunction of how you prepare your mind, body, and things for resilience in some way. You know, so in that way, both these talks were interconnected in some way. Perhaps there are some questions that people have. We don't have much time to take too many questions, but if there are one or two specific questions, we could handle them. Okay, there is one which says, how can music be instrumental in disseminating psychological and mental health awareness among people? That was what the whole talk was about, I think, yeah? Would you like to respond to that, Dr. Mukherjee?
Yeah, actually the talk was all about this process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's another question which asks, does NLP change our thinking?
NLP. So can you please tell me the full term of it?
Mr. Romitava Mujumdar, can you say what NLP means? No, you unmute yourself. No, I think we can't hear you. We can't hear you.
That's what I'm saying. You have
Yeah. Yeah. You are unmuted now. Go ahead.
Right. Dr. Vaishali, I must say that it was a wonderful presentation. It was worth the wait.
Would you speak a little louder, please? We
Yeah,
can't hear you.
We can't hear you. Come closer to the microphone, please.
Hear me?
Yeah. Come closer to the microphone.
Yeah. Dr. Vaishali, let me congratulate you. It was an excellent presentation.
Thank you so much.
Sorry for that initial year, but it was worth the wait. You took us around a 360-degree view of the entire mind, matter. It's quite a very unusual. I am myself a doctorate in management and leadership and all. So I was very listening very attentively. NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. In the course
Okay.
of time, it has been found that you can basically reprogram your mind. It's the same thing in a roundabout manner. And I have found that, see, there are three learning stages: auditory, kinetic, and visually. So if you use those things, it comes as a part of one.
Mhm.
The question that I had in my mind as this thing is, are musicians born or are they made? What is your answer for that?
Okay, that's a precise enough question.
Yeah.
Are musicians born? Are they born musicians, or do they make themselves musicians?
You see, as a therapist, I would say that we are all musicians. We are all musicians. So basically, the expression of music is something that is expanded in all areas of our life. So how, I mean, the music is explained in the context of therapy and psychology. So it is basically the way we move. So in that way, music, it integrates all human movements, all human efforts, all human creations. So we don't need to be restricted to music only, because when we see, I mean, therapy clients in a clinical session, so we are not at all restricted to sound for communication. So it's simply maybe the utterance, it's maybe a movement, maybe a facial expression. So everything is considered as a musical. So from that perspective, I would say that yes, we all have the innate potentiality. So it's kind of a born, quality. But from other way, I mean, being a musician at the same time, if you ask me that it's a born innate quality or it's acquired, it's both. You need both.
Anyway, thank
True.
It's basically the interaction between
Yes.
the two.
Yes, when a child comes into this world, the child starts crying, and each child cries at a different octave. That is also a kind of music.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yeah, of course, of
yeah.
course. Because each and every cry is an expression.
Right,
The child is trying to communicate.
correct.
You
Like
know
the
that
chirping
when
of
we,
birds, the different cries of birds, which sound musical to us also very often
yeah,
early in the
yeah,
morning. Yes,
yeah,
so. Yeah.
yeah. When we, deal with the children with disability, because they don't have the language of communication. So it's of course the sound the child makes, the cry, through what they try to express themselves. We have to pick the cues from that. Yeah. Thank you for your question. It's a very nice question.
Good.
Yeah.
I don't think there are any further questions at the moment.
Okay. Okay.
So we would like to thank you very much for this 360-degree approach, as Mr. Amitabh Majumdar has said very rightly, absolutely. And if one were to summarize whatever you said in one sentence, it would mean that better cultivate music, otherwise face the music, right? So we have to all cultivate music in our own ways for
Yes.
whatever purposes we need, and I think that is the kind of takeaway that we can take away from the talk today, and all the interlinks that you have provided of the various stratas in which this kind of music can work as therapy, as prevention, as resilience. I think has been very, very useful for all of us who have listened to it today. And you very rightly pointed out that, one shouldn't be stuck only in the kind of music that one is used to listening, because
Yes.
probably then it is the same kind of neurons that get activated again and again, and there is not any scope for other areas to come in. So one has to be open to different kinds of music as well to listen. And it was a very good suggestion that you have made, that just go to YouTube and start listening to any kind of music without even looking at who has
Yes.
made that music. And if it appeals to you, if you like it, then you can look up and see who has done it and look for more music from that particular person. So thank you very much, Dr. Vaishali Mukherjee, and
Thank you for this
all.
opportunity.
Thank you all who have joined us on Zoom and also on Facebook Live. Of course, for those who might have missed out on a part of this, or a major part of this, this recording will be on the Facebook page of the Victoria Memorial Hall, Kolkata. And in due course, this evening's talk will also be uploaded on our YouTube channel. So you can always catch up with that later on. So thank you very much, everybody, and have a very good night, and decide on what kind of music you want to listen to instead of a lullaby to put you to sleep at night today. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.